That was just the sponsor from the place, from the city hall.
So when someone speaks in Hebrew, I understand every third word, and I'm hoping at some point those words are going to join together to form sentences. But it's not going to happen between now and when I get on the plane. Step 2, came to believe. I'm not going to try and read that out. No, I'm not going to try and read that out. I'm not even sure if it's a step or a tradition. It is a step. So came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I didn't argue my way into step 2. When I'm in trouble, I can't think my way into step 2 either. What I'm going to say is probably a little harsh, but there we have it. It might be harsh. When I'm in trouble, I have a choice. Either I believe there is a solution, or I don't believe there is a solution. Someone in AA said to me a long time ago, if there is any problem to which there is no solution, I might as well give up now. So I can't hold on to any individual fear. Fear. If there is one thing that is not allowed to happen in my universe, one little piece of fear will fill the entire room with fear. It's like poison gases. The gas will spread to fill the room within seconds. Fear will spread to fill my room within seconds. And my fear is always about this. There is an event which is not allowed to happen. So sanity, to me, in step 2, what I'm going for is a world in which anything can happen and everything is allowed. And my job is to believe that sanity is possible, not to work out intellectually whether sanity is possible. Step 2 is not an intellectual exercise. It's an extension of step 1, where I say, I'm in such trouble. I cannot live the way I have been living. There must be a better way. Now, why would I believe that there is a better way? If there is one person that tells me there is a better way, that is enough. I do not need more than one person. If there are 10, that helps. If there are several million, that helps. But if there is just one, there are going to be issues in my life, and therefore in your life too. It's a problem. There are going to be problems where almost everyone will say, that's just horrible, you have to put up with that. I'm from England, and some things have been happening politically which have divided the country in two in the last few years. And there has been a lot of emotional disturbance. And there was a vote 2 years ago, and I know hundreds of people, and I only know 2 people who voted differently than me out of the hundreds of people, and none of my friends know people who voted the other way. We didn't know that the country was divided until the vote took place, and then you suddenly discover that there are whole worlds of people that think something completely different from you, and they look totally normal. They seem to function normally. They're able to drive cars. And yet they vote a particular way. And the whole country collectively went into nervous breakdown. And a similar thing happened in America 18 months ago. And maybe what has happened in Great Britain and what has happened in America, they're phenomena which are not unfamiliar in Israel as well. And my emotional disturbance over these situations, I looked around at all of my friends, and everyone in recovery was disturbed in the same way. Some people had something of a solution. But I went to a conference of AA and Al-Anon in America on the day a particular important person stepped into a particular important role in another country. And I was talking to lots of people. I was talking to people who are 30 years sober, who are 40 years sober, who had an emotional problem that day, who were working their programs very hard in order not to crumble. And then I met my friend Kurt. I've known Kurt for years, just a little bit, but I've known him for years. And I said to him, a little voice said, have breakfast with him. So I asked him to have breakfast with me, and I asked him a question, and an hour and a quarter later the answer finished. I did not have a chance to say anything during this hour and a quarter. But it was strange, because the question I asked him at the beginning was, with everything that is going on politically, socially in this country, are you okay? And it was clear from his answer that none of this was touching him. He knew precisely what was going on. He probably shared the same political views as me. However, he was untouched by it. And I could see in his eyes there was no fear. I needed someone in front of me to be fine in this situation, for me to realise that he was sane and the rest of the world was nuts. There are times when everyone is nuts, and truth is not decided by majority vote. Now, what the group does is decided by majority vote, but truth. Sometimes groups act out of fear. Sometimes countries act out of fear. But truth doesn't care. Truth remains true no matter what I think, no matter what I feel. And my agreement with truth does not add to the truth. My agreement is not a valuable contribution to the truth. If the sun is shining and I go out and say to the sun, I agree that you're shining, the sun doesn't say, thank you, I can now carry on shining because you have agreed that I may shine. Sometimes I'll present a solution to a sponsee, and the sponsee will say, that sounds like a good idea, I agree with that. And my response is, the solution is still a solution even if you don't agree with it and even if you don't like it. So step 2 is a very simple choice. Am I going to trust you or am I going to trust me? And when I say me, I mean the monkey mind. The mind that is always thinking, perceiving, analysing, plotting. The mind that thinks it sees things out there. It is not seeing things out there. It is projecting things onto out there. When I see anything happening, it is a white screen that I'm telling a story about, and then I think the story is happening to me. I don't know if any of you have ever been in a business meeting in S-Anon or Al-Anon or whatever, or a group conscience, and there's some tension, there's some argument, and the next day everybody calls everyone else to talk about the business meeting or the group conscience. And from what everyone says, you would not believe you were in the same meeting, because everybody is telling a different story about the same event. And if you read history books, you'll discover the same thing about what happened in this city in this year, and 100 witnesses give completely different stories about what happens. Well, what do you believe? Who knows? The truth is not decided by majority vote. So I trusted a couple of years ago, a year and a bit ago, the look in my friend Kurt's eyes over my extensive analysis of the situation, and I decided it was possible to live on the planet as the planet is and be comfortable. So step 2 is not something that happened back in 1993. Step 2 is something that happens whenever I have a problem. And a problem, there are 2 types of problem. I like classifications, I like lists. 2 types of problem. Type of problem, number 1, I am disturbed and I don't know how not to be disturbed. Problem number 2, I don't know what to do. There is no other type of problem. I haven't found another type of problem. Actually, they're connected, because the reason I don't know what to do is because I'm disturbed. So it goes both ways. I don't know what to do, so I'm disturbed, but I'm disturbed, so I don't know what to do. The gold is at the bottom of the river. And it is because there is so much mud in the river, I can't see the gold. So everything has to be still. And the only thing which is stopping things from being still is me and my constant storytelling about everything that is going on. I don't know if in Israel you have a 24-hour news station where they have, on these 24-hour news stations, they have this thing called a ticker, where the news runs across the bottom of the screen. And on very sophisticated channels, there will be one line with the business news, a second line with the sports news, a third line with the weather. And my problem is that I can't see the picture because I'm looking at the news ticker at the bottom, giving all of the narratives about what is going on the screen. And if you've ever watched one of these news channels and you watch it for long enough, you'll realise that the news ticker, the story at the bottom of the screen, repeats over and over and over, but it looks like news each time, but it's not. It's the same story again. I don't know why they call it Chadashot, because it's not Chadash. It's the same thing. Yeah, this could be the news from 5 years ago. It could be the opinions from 10 years ago. So step 2 is when I move from watching the stories in my head to seeing what is really there. And being willing to say, maybe my stories are untrue. Maybe there is a better way. Maybe there is a different way to look at this. And in step 3, very simply, it is a decision to implement what I've already decided in steps 1 and 2. Step 1, I do not like how I have been living. I do not like how I have been seeing. I do not like how I have been feeling. Step 2, there is a better way. Step 3, right. Let's get on with it. But there is a little more to it than that. The reason I have a problem at all is because wherever I am physically in the world, if I'm looking with my eyes, it feels like I am the centre of the universe. So wherever I am at the centre. And I think if I were some sort of creature with my eyes on a stalk coming out, looking in different directions, maybe my perception will be different, but I am at the centre. And this is the problem. There is a line in here on page 62. It said, first of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. It didn't work. Well, we know this. This is why we're in the room. If it did work, you'd be out there working it. but it doesn't, so you're in here. But what does it mean to play God? It means being at the centre of my world, being at the centre of the universe. And I need to have God as the centre of my universe. And I have a simple relationship with God. In the big book, it gives you some images to deal with. The first one is God was going to be our director. Now, director in English has two main meanings in contemporary English, in modern English. The first one is a director of a business. So you would be the employee of the business and God is the director of the business. Or people will think the director of a play or a film and you are the actor. Now here is the first really new and really interesting idea in step 3. If I'm the actor and God is the director, it means that in any scene I have a role to play, I have actions to take, I have words to say. The actor does not make up the words to say. He asks the director for the script. And all he has to do is deliver the script. If I'm playing Macbeth in a production of the play Macbeth, and I'm having an argument with Lady Macbeth, who by the way could probably handle a couple of steps, there is a little bit of tension between Macbeth and Lady Macbeth. He's not killing people anywhere near quick enough for her. She's like, if you can't do the job, let me. I will handle it. If my job is to play Macbeth, I'm still the actor. I don't become Macbeth. So I don't need to become emotionally involved in who gets to die next. I have to remember that I am just the actor. And I've had situations in service, in AA, where there is enormous tension between me and someone else, where they are furious with me or with, and this is the truth, they're not furious with me, they're furious with words I have said, they're furious with actions I have taken, they're furious with what my character has done. Lady Macbeth is furious with Macbeth, not with the actor. So in a marriage, in a sponsor-sponsee relationship, whatever is going on the surface is going on between the two actors on the stage. But there is always a second relationship which is going on, which is there is a connection between the two actors on the stage. So there are two relationships at once. There is a relationship between your soul and their soul, and there is a relationship between your role and their role. And there are times when I have to be brutal in the role on the surface, and yet underneath my soul is saying to their soul, look at what our characters are doing to each other. Stay with me. I keep mental eye contact with the other person's soul if I have to say something difficult. And sometimes in service, if I'm delegated a role, if I'm given a role to do, and then I have to delegate a task to someone else. I offer them the task to do, and they have the choice. Do it or don't do it. But we're not in a negotiation. I'm not negotiating this. I'm telling you, this is what is going to happen, and if you don't want to do it, I will find someone else to do it. This is a tough conversation. In a marriage, it might be, we are leaving for the airport at 2. I am leaving for the airport at 2. If you are on time, you can come. If you are not, I am going anyway. It would be great if you joined me. If you're not organised enough, that's your problem. I'm leaving at 2. But not to be so involved in the character I'm playing that any anger comes out. I maintain eye contact with the spirit inside and say, whatever happens to our characters, I still love you. There was a clip on YouTube of an American comedian called Nadia Ginsburg, who does these impressions of Cher and Madonna and other pop singers. And there was a sketch with Madonna and Madonna's daughter, and they have this horrible argument. And Madonna says to the daughter, she steps back and says, you and I are not arguing. Mummy's ego is arguing with your ego. And this is the thing to remember in step 3. If I turn my will and life over to God, I stop identifying with the characters I'm playing. So, whether in my case the characters are husband and son and brother and lecturer and teach, and I have a job, so the job that I do, neighbour, AA member, Al-Anon member, chair of this committee, member of that committee. All of these roles, if I identify with the role, the show is over. Because I will defend that role. I will want that role to succeed. Maybe the role is not supposed to succeed. In Tradition 6, it says we do not lend our name to an outside activity. So each of these roles, of husband, of son, of this, of that, they are all outside activities. So husband is a role I play, it is not who I am. And my job is simply to say to my higher power, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to believe? What do you want me to think? And just to play the role well, and then retreat back into who I really am. I heard someone say years ago that we're like these giant magnets that go through junkyards, and all of this metal gets stuck to the magnet. And the job of recovery is to demagnetize, to stop being a magnet. So all the stuff falls off, and this AA speaker said, and then you discover what you really are, which is a table lamp. So you go from being this pile of wreckage to being a table lamp. You're just meant to shine, that is all. and maybe, do the laundry, do the dishes, take the children to school as the lamp. But that's who I really am. I get to play roles, I get to play characters, but I mustn't forget who I am. I'm made of the same substance as the universe. I did not create myself. The universe created me. It was here first. So I cannot look at me and say, there is something wrong with me. Otherwise I'm saying that the universe, God, created something defective. Someone in AA, actually in Al-Anon as well, said to me once, you were not created bad, you were created empty. So an olive tree is created perfect and whole, and nothing else needs to be added to it for it to be an olive tree. It is already an olive tree. He said that everything in the universe is like that. It is created complete as it is. Now we're not created, this man said, with anything wrong with us, but we're created incomplete, and the job is to find our way to completion, which means the emptiness has to be filled up. And I always thought the emptiness would be filled up by getting something from the outside, by having everything organised outside perfectly, and then I will feel full and satisfied. And the truth in the realm of the spirit is that the laws of physics are reversed. So that if something is empty, physically, you need to pour something into it. And this is why alcoholics like me are the most primitive form of life, because we just pour something into ourselves hoping it will fill us up. To fill me up, I need to give out. But what I need to give is light, not orders. Instructions. No orders, no instructions, just light. But to give light, I need to receive light first. And so my first job is to go to my higher power and say, fill me with light so I have something to give. Except the pipe which connects God to me is full of rubbish. And the point of steps 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is to get rid of the rubbish so the light can flow through me out to you. A brief thing before, we'll talk about steps 4 through 9 in the third session, 10, 11 and 12 in the fourth session. But one thing about step 4, if you're a good Al-Anon like me, you will like nothing more than a workbook. The thicker the workbook, the better.
What was that again?
The thicker the workbook, the better. The more questions there are to answer, the better. The more I can stare at the complexity within me, the better. And this is not how I do inventory. In my case, it has to be incredibly simple. My sponsor describes the ego as the bloated nothingness of self. Now, bloated, difficult word. So if you take a roll of toilet paper and leave it in the rain, it will bloat. That's bloated. The bloated nothingness of self. So it's nothing, but it fills the entire room. So I've got to do inventory in such a way that I don't make the unreal more real. I've got to see through it and realise it's nothing. I've used inventory badly in the past, and at the end of the inventory process, it feels like I have 100 times more problems than I started with books full of words. And that needed to stop. And that's why we have a small Sefer HaGadol. That's why we have a small big book. And so we're going to look at a very simple way of doing step 4. And we're going to look at simple ways of doing steps 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, so that you can breathe and not have to buy more than one pad of paper. Good. Should we have a break? Yes, lovely.
Okay, 10 minutes.